So as we're looking at this problem, it says man with an associate's degree, a man with a bachelor's degree exceeds that of a man with an associate's degree by 25,000. And then the average yearly salary of a man with a master's degree exceeds that of a man with an associate's by 45,000. It says combine three men with each of these degrees earn 214,000. Find the average salary of men with each of these levels of education. So, what in each of those statements, which is being compared? Because we got to figure out our variable. So, what is being compared each time? So each salary, yep. But in each sentence, so it says a man with an associate's degree. So a man with a bachelor's degree exceeds that of a man with a associate's by 25,000. And then it says a man with a master's degree exceeds that of a man with an associate's degree by 45,000. In each of those sentences, which type of degree was in that? Associates, right? So we are going to say that X equals the salary of a man with associate's degree. And so when we add up each of these three men with these degrees, what's it have to equal? 214,000. So the right side of our equation is going to be 214,000. And so when we add these all up, it's first the man with this associate's degree, which is just X. We're going to add to that the man with the bachelor's degree. So how can I write the salary of the man with the bachelor's degree? X plus 25,000. So I could put that in parentheses if I want, just to note that is going to be the bachelor's degree. And then I had to add that to the master's degree, which exceeds the associates by 45,000. So I'm going to write that as X plus 45,000. So if you need a reminder, remember this is the associate's degree. This is the bachelor's degree. This is the master's degree. Do we need those parentheses for this particular problem if everything's separated by addition? No. So now it's just combining our like terms. X plus x is 3x. 25,000 plus 45,000 is 70,000. And now we subtract 70,000. So solving these equations is not the hard part. It's getting the equation to begin with. So 214 minus 70,000. What's 21? Sorry, what's 210,000 minus 70,000? About multiples of 7. Or you can use your pocket calculator. What's 21 minus 7? Or 214 minus 70? What we get? What'd you get? 144,000. Yep. And then we would divide that by 3. We'll get x equals 48,000. Now, we are not done. Again, that's just giving us x. And x is the man of the salary of the man with the associates. We have to then answer the question. We have to figure out what each salary is. And again, according to that Harrisburg rubric, we have to make a short sentence. So our first sentence is average salary of a man with associate's degree is $45,000. Again, we need units, or 48,000. Sorry, 48,000. All right, then to get the average cost for, or average salary for a bachelor's, we have to take that 48,000 and do what with it? How do I find the cost for the bachelor's degree salary? Logan? Add 25,000 to that. So average salary of man with bachelor's degree is 48,000 plus 25,000, which is 73,000. And to get the master's degree, we would take the 48,000 plus the 45,000. So 45 plus 48 is 93,000. That is a 4 on the rubric. Everything's correct. We showed all of our work, and we made that statement at the end. All right, so that's one type of problem. That's a pretty basic problem. All right, go ahead and try this. Again, if you can't read this, it's on page 130. So just read it for right now. All right, so if you're ever trying to figure out what your variable is, look at the question. What's the question asking us? The computer price before the reduction, right? So guess what? That's our going to be our variable. So x equals cost original price of the computer. That's a little recommendation. Again, whatever the question's asking you is always probably going to be your original variable. Now we got to write an equation. So it says after a 30% reduction, you purchase a new computer for $840. So we know how much that computer costs. $840. So I can write equals 840. So there's a couple ways we could write this. One way we can do it is I could take my original price, which is X, and then I'd have to take away 30% of my computer price. So 30% of my computer price, I would write this as 0.3x. Okay, so I have my original computer price, and I'm subtracting 30% of that price. So 1 whole minus 0.3 would be 0.7x. So you're paying for 70%. If you right away wrote 0.7x because you were thinking, oh, I'm still paying 70% of the cost, you could do it that way also. But this is saying 100% minus 100% of the price of the computer minus 30% of the price of the computer is going to be $840. So then we're just dividing by 0.7. So 840 divided by 0.7. So $1,200. Now again, we're not finished until we write that statement. So we can say the original price of the computer is $1,200. All right, there's two other types of questions that we'll look at then, and then you'll have some time to work. All right, so go ahead and read this type of problem. All right, so for the first type of problem, we were just adding everything up to find like a total. The second problem we went over, we were trying to find a percentage off of a problem. Now this one, we're trying to find when are two values going to be equal to each other. Okay, so what do you think the x will represent in this case? Trips across, yep. So our x is the trips across the bridge. All right, so it says it costs $7 per trip, but if you buy a $30 discount pass, it only costs you $4 then. So on one side, and it's saying when are they going to be equal in value? So one side is the side that costs the $7 every time. So every time I go across, it's $7, so that would just be 7x. The other side is going to cost me $4 every trip, so that would be 4x. But guess what we paid ahead of time to get that $4 per trip plus 30. Okay, so we had to pay $30 in advance to get $4 every trip. So we get our equation of being 7x is equal to 4x plus 30, because again, we're trying to see how many trips across will it take for us to be equal in value. So again, the hard part is coming up with the equation. The easy part is solving, because all we have to do now is subtract 4x and then divide by 3. So x equals 10. So again, what does that mean? X is the number of trips. So after 10 trips across the bridge, the cost would be the same. So we can say the discount price and the regular price cost the same at 10 trips. All right, and then our last one is probably the most difficult to try and come an equation with. So go ahead and read that, and then we'll create an equation. All right, so we're going to need two answers here. We want to know how much was invested in the 14% interest and how much was invested in that 6% loss. Okay. So what I would do is you could really make your x either amount in the 14% or the amount in the 6%, I'm just going to do x equals the amount of money in 14% interest. So again, we know how much they made in interest. We made how much money in interest? What was the total amount of money we made in interest? 608. So that's what our equation is going to have to equal. We made that by doing 14% of our amount that we put in there. We don't know how much we put in that 14%, but we know we put 14% of our money in there. So I'm going to call that 14x. Now, we have to figure out how much money we put into this 6% loss. Since it is a loss, we are going to be subtracting, and 6% is 0.06. Now, we can't put an x in there because x represents the amount of money in the 14% interest, and we're talking about that amount of money we put in the 6%. But what we do know is that we start with how much money? We start with 12,000, and whatever we didn't put in this 14%, we put into this 6% loss. So how can I write that of whatever remains? I have the $12,000 that I started with, and I would take away the amount that I put in here, which is x. Okay, so this is saying 14% of the amount that I put in that first account minus 6% loss, and then it's 12,000 minus the amount of money I put in that other account. That gives me that. All right, so now we are distributing and just solving for x. So 0.06 times 12,000. If you don't have a calculator out yet, you should probably have one out. No, did you get it? 7,200. I think it's 720. I think you might put too many zeros in. 720. It should be 720. Or you didn't put 0.06 maybe. Yeah, it's 0.06 because we're talking about 6%. And then I'm distributing here, negative 0.06 times negative x would be positive 0.06x. Okay, we add our like terms. 0.14 plus 0.06 would be 0.2. X minus 720 equals 680. We're adding 720. So we get 0.2x equals 1,400. And when we divide by 0.2, what do we get? $7,000. All right, so that means in that 14% annual interest, there was 7,000, which means how many would be in that account that we lost money on? 5,000, because we had 12,000 to start. 12,000 minus the 5,000. Sorry, 12,000 minus the 7,000 we already put in gives us 5,000 in that other account. So we got to write that statement then. So there was $7,000 invested in the 14% stock, and then there was $5,000 invested in the 6% loss. So that's what you want to get the habit of. Figure out what your X is, writing your equation, solving it, and making sure that you have that statement at the end.